My name is Marina Soles Quinn, 33 years old. I knew I shouldn't go. My gut told me not to, and I've learned over the years that my gut is a better historian than any photo album. But my son asked. He misses his cousins, he said, so I let maybe turn into all right and parked in front of my sister's new house with a small Target box of cookies balanced on his knees. The place looked staged, the way a lie looks practiced, beige everywhere, gold-veined countertops, candles lined like soldiers that had never been lit. My sister opened the door with open house energy, smile too white, voice pitched for echo. We crossed tile that still smelled like a showroom. Her kids ran past without a hi. My son, patient and careful, held up the cookie box. "Should I still give it to them?" he whispered. "Not yet," I said, because I knew the difference between a gift and a test, and tonight felt like both. We took the far end of the table. My brother and his wife were already halfway down a bottle of wine, the kind that makes people certain their jokes are charity. Dad swirled bourbon like a gavel. Mom barely glanced up, eyes moving over me like I was his furniture that wouldn't fit if she redecorated. The unspoken alliance was here in its Sunday best. I used to think I imagined it, that I was too sensitive. But sensitivity is just what people call accuracy when it makes them uncomfortable. My son opened his iPad to show a cousin a puzzle game he'd been building. Colorful blocks that fell into patterns even adults couldn't solve. He's brilliant with logic, patient with code. He explained the levels, his hands making little arcs in the air. Right then, my niece leaned in, looked straight at me, and mouthed, slowly, carefully, like she wanted to secure the words to my face. "We don't sit with people like you." She glanced sideways. A soft, serrated laughter followed, quiet enough to plausibly deny, loud enough to draw blood. I looked at my sister. She saw. She always sees. She sipped wine with the same concentration I used to bring to fixing her resume, wiring deposits, negotiating leases. Beige walls swallowed the moment. Beige is good at that. I didn't ask questions. I don't audition for rooms anymore. I reached for my son's hand and stood. "We're leaving," I said, softly enough that it sounded like a choice, firmly enough that it wasn't. The room thinned, chairs scraped, no one stopped us. Out in the dark, my son buckled himself in, eyes searching my face, waiting for the version of me that would explain away cruelty. I didn't. Explaining is just free labor you give to people who already decided they don't have to listen. We were a street away when my phone buzzed. "Dad, payment tomorrow, right?" 3 words with a lifetime of assumption poured into them. Like nothing happened. Like my son hadn't been cut with a whisper at a table I helped build. I typed back, "Not my problem." No punctuation, no emoji. It landed like a door that decides to be a wall. At home, the quiet felt clean. I tucked my son into bed, kissed the space above his eyebrow, watched him drift into sleep with the relief of someone who escaped a storm he didn't know had a name. My boyfriend Evan called to check in. "You good?" Simple, careful. He's steady in the ways that matter. He didn't push for details, didn't try to fix what wasn't his to fix. That's how I knew I could keep moving forward. Once, his ex-girlfriend tried to corner me at a birthday, performative sweetness coding questions about how your family handles holidays. She follows my sister now, likes the "family is everything" posts. People love a story that lets them be central without being helpful. The next morning, I sent one message, not to the group chat, not to my sister, not to my mother who prefers "we're worried about you" as a blunt instrument. A single text to my brother-in-law. Lease transfer starts today. Clean, final. A sentence that doesn't beg to be understood. He read it within 2 minutes and said nothing. Silence is a strategy when you're pretending you still hold the cards. Less than an hour later, my sister called twice. I let it ring. I flipped pancakes, flipped my phone face down, watched syrup find its own path. My son queued up a coding tutorial on YouTube, voiceover soft and precise. I want him to understand that peace doesn't come from pleasing people. It comes from learning how to leave a table that seats you last on purpose. By noon, the dealership confirmed the transfer process. "Within the week," I said, and the rep's voice tilted into a smile I could hear. Remaining payments shift to the new primary signer. I asked them to mail the packet to the house. Let her explain it to him. I'm done subtitle writing for people who insist on misreading. The group chat began its dance by late afternoon. Brother, you really pulling a dramatic solo act again? What a joke. I left the chat. No speech, no slammed door, just the quiet click of a boundary settling into place. We got burgers and root beer floats for dinner. I didn't bring up family. My son asked if we were still going to Grandma's for Thanksgiving. Maybe not this year, I said. Okay, he said, and went back to his fries. He is proof that children can handle truth if you don't make them carry your denial. At 8:42 p.m., Mom texted, "Your father said his card didn't work for the utility bill again. Can you fix it before the shutoff?" No question mark, because it wasn't a question. It was an old assignment, reissued. She didn't realize I'd already shut off the autopay that morning and removed myself as account manager. Not malicious, just accurate. I don't want my name tied to people who treat me like a subscription they're entitled to. I closed the message and let silence do the heavy lifting. Let them feel it. Let them notice that the annoying organized one had been the scaffolding all along. Groceries during maternity leave? Me. Dad's heating bill in that snowstorm? Me. My brother's dental copay? Me. Christmas gifts that appeared on time, tagged from all of us? Also me. I never kept score to use it, only to remember that someone did the math. The next morning, Sister's voicemail tried to braid calm with panic. Maybe we should all get together, just the adults, clear the air. She wanted a reset like a magic trick, pretend the table never cut me. People who've benefited from your silence will always frame your voice as violence. I scrolled past her fresh Instagram, matching pumpkin patch outfits, cider, captions about family being everything. An hour later, a Venmo request pinged. $210 for Halloween stuff. You said you'd help, remember? I declined and blocked. No ... explanation. No, just so you know. Done is a complete sentence. By afternoon, a polite man from Dad's insurance company called to confirm the policy status. I stirred pasta sauce with one hand. I'm not on that account anymore, I said. He paused like he expected me to be the adult in a story where everyone else claimed to be one. The policy fully lapsed 6 days ago, he said, delicate as a doctor. He wanted me to fix it. I hung up instead. 10 minutes later, my brother texted, "What did you do to Dad's insurance?" Then, cops pulled him for a taillight, ran the tag, saw no insurance. Truck's towed. Are you happy now? No, I wasn't happy. But I also didn't owe a rescue to people who built a system where my labor was the default setting. They always mocked that truck, old, loud, ugly, while Dad polished it every Sunday like a memory he could still drive. I remembered flea market Saturdays, styrofoam cups of lemonade, the way the seatbelt stuck in summer. It wasn't about a truck. It was about attention. Who gives it? Who assumes it? That night, Mom finally wrote the kind of long text people send when they want to sound factual while swinging a bat. You're hurting people who love you. This isn't how family works. You're burning bridges you'll regret. Your grandmother would be ashamed. That last line found the place she aimed for. My grandmother was the only one who ever defended me out loud. Weaponizing her was a cheap trick, and cheap tricks are how you know someone's losing. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my spreadsheet, the one I update every time I cover something real quick. The numbers were a skyline. I laughed at the audacity of a city built with no permits. Then I closed the file and felt something open in my chest. Space, maybe. In the mailbox that evening was a padded envelope. Inside, a beaded bracelet, elastic and plastic letters, spelling my son's name with one letter missing. Wrapped around it, a torn page from a notebook. I'm sorry. Mom says I'm not supposed to say that, but I am. Please come to the Christmas play. It was from my niece, the same mouth that formed the words that sent us out into the dark. Children don't fake guilt well. Adults train them to hide it. I believed her. I put the bracelet on the counter next to the Target cookie box that never made it onto a plate. My son wandered in, picked it up, grinned at the lopsided spelling. She tried, he said. He was right. Upstairs, I set an alert in my calendar. 43 days. They thought I didn't know about the balloon payment, the refinance call that ended in a no, the way my signature quietly girded the house they flaunted. I did. I had the date saved in 3 places. I wasn't vindictive. I was ready. The phone buzzed once more before midnight. A message from my sister's husband. What is this? Why are you acting like this? This is over a child. I put the phone face down. I don't let people redefine the crime scene around me anymore. I turned off the lights, and for the first time in a long time, the dark felt like rest instead of erasure. The clock on my nightstand glowed. Somewhere in a beige house, a calendar ticked. Somewhere in me, something steadier did too. I woke to rain on the windows and the kind of quiet that feels earned, not given. For an hour, I let the apartment breathe, kettle steaming, my son narrating a Lego build, the radiator rattling in a rhythm we'd started to trust. Then the morning did what mornings do when you've stopped cushioning other people's consequences. It delivered them to your door. A polite voice from Dad's insurance company called again. Different man, same script, asking me to verify a policy that no longer had my name anywhere near it. I told him I didn't manage those payments. He stalled like a car at a yellow light. There was an auto pay card ending. Not mine anymore, I said. Silence widened on his end until it clicked into a thank you and a goodbye. I put the phone on the counter and watched the kettle argue itself to a finish line. By 9, my brother's text landed like a thrown wrench. What did you do to Dad's insurance? A minute later, cops pulled him over for a taillight. Towed. He's stranded. Are you happy now? I set the phone face down and found my son on the floor, calibrating gears. Can the lift go higher? He asked, and I said, yes, of course, and bent to help him solve something mechanical and honest. Happiness wasn't the word. Relief wasn't exactly it, either. It was more like relief's older cousin, the one who doesn't confuse peace with painless. I hadn't called the cops. I hadn't canceled anything. I had simply removed my card and stepped away from an account that was never mine to carry. The consequences felt loud, because that's what happens when you stop padding the edges of other people's choices. The edges reappear. The group chat tried its chorus after lunch. You're being dramatic. You're turning little things into war. Family doesn't keep score. As if telling the truth about labor is the same as counting trophies. I left the chat a second time just to make sure the door knew I meant it. I fed the quiet with small things. Laundry folded warm, a loaf of banana bread cooling lopsided on the rack, a quick call from Evan between meetings. You're good? He asked. I'm doing the work I should have done years ago, I said. He hummed approval like a bass line. Once, his ex had tried looping me into a women supporting women post that was mostly an excuse to praise my sister's hustle. She'd liked every beige kitchen photo within a 5-mile radius. I muted her months ago. Not everything is a conspiracy. Some things are just algorithms for enabling. Late afternoon, Mom sent a text that read like a closing argument written in the margins. You're hurting people who love you. This isn't how family works. Your grandmother would be ashamed. That last line landed like it was supposed to. My grandmother never weaponized affection. She wrapped it, placed it in my hands, and said, use it when the wind is mean. It's strange hearing a memory swung like a bat. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a spreadsheet the family doesn't know exists. Every can you just request, every I'll pay you back that never bothered to come home, every emergency made of bad planning, and my good heart. Groceries during maternity leave, $1,300 across 3 months. Brother's dental copay, $420. Dad's heating bill in the 2021 snowstorm, $268. Christmases where from all of us meant from me. I laughed, not unkindly, more like someone who's finally seen the whole illusion, strings and trapdoor and all. Then I opened a different tab. 5 years ago, I'd set up a joint education fund for the nieces and nephews. I never announced it. I just moved money there when I could instead of performing generosity with wrapping paper. The balance wasn't huge, but it was real. I closed the account. I withdrew the total and sent it into a savings fund with my son's name on it. He had been the quiet cost of my giving, standing small while I taught him that adults who don't say thank you still get things. No more. I printed the closure confirmation and slid it into a manila folder labeled Receipts. Not spite, structure. Evening fell with that particular blue that makes kitchen lights look warmer than they are. The doorbell rang. On the mat, 2 small gift bags, no note. Inside one, a dark blue hoodie in my son's size. In the other, the exact Lego Technic set he'd circled in a catalog a few weeks ago. My sister's taste has never been that correct. Guilt is a better shopper than pride. I left the bags on the counter. At 9:17 p.m., her text came. I think we need to talk. I know things went too far. I need to ask you something, please. No apology. No naming what happened at the table. Just careful language stepping around a fire she lit. I let the text sit the way it asked me to sit through years of small cuts, without relief. My son padded into the kitchen in socks that were losing their grip. He saw the Lego, the hoodie, grinned, then looked at me the way kids do when they're measuring the weather across your face. Can I say thank you? He asked. You can say it to me, I said. We'll pass it on if it stays quiet for a while. He nodded as if that were a rule he could live with. Wednesday morning, Mom tried a new position on the chessboard. Your sister's in trouble. The bank won't let her refinance without your signature. You know that. Think of the kids. I did think of them. I thought of the whispered, we don't sit with people like you. And the bracelet that came later with one letter missing and a note folded in a way that said secrecy is already part of this child's vocabulary. I thought about the difference between protecting children and using them as currency. Then I put my finger on the calendar and counted. 43 days from last week, now down to 37. The clock ticked without asking my permission. My sister's silence densified, less smug, more stunned. The dealership packet would hit their mailbox any day. The lease transfer would finish by the time the leaves gave up. The next message came from my brother's wife with the subject line, "Let's clear the air," like we were executives in a merger that just needed new bullet points. I didn't open it. Air clears when people stop lying into it. On Friday, an envelope arrived in our building's shared mailbox with my name in purple marker and glitter that migrated to everything it touched. Inside, a homemade invitation written in a child's careful ambition. Family dinner. Everyone says one nice thing. Phones off. No laughing. Underlined. Please come back. I miss your hugs. My niece's name at the bottom, spelled right. It joined the beaded bracelet on the counter like a duet of small courage. Kids apologize like they mean it. Adults apologize like they're negotiating terms. Saturday evening, I took my son for ice cream. We ate in the car with the windows cracked and the radio soft. Out of nowhere, he asked, "Are we ever going back there, to their house?" He said it without ownership, like a place you once rented. "Maybe," I said. "Things change." He licked his spoon and nodded. "I don't think they will," he said, "but I like the Lego set." The cleanest kind of honesty is the kind that doesn't audition for your approval. The dealership called to confirm final signatures would be routed Monday to the new primary signer. Perfect, I said, and meant it. I want consequences to arrive in daylight. Sunday morning, Dad sent the longest message he's ever written to me. Family doesn't cut each other off. Money comes and goes, but blood doesn't. You're teaching your son the wrong lessons. I read it once, slowly, like a syllabus for a class I wasn't taking anymore. Then I turned off my phone and melted caramel for apples with my son. We made a mess on purpose. He told me one of his cousins used to call him weird when they thought he couldn't hear. Is that why we're not going? Yes, I said. He popped a bubble in the caramel and smiled like a scientist besting a problem. Okay. Permission received. Monday brought a different kind of quiet. No texts, no calls, just the hum of fear you can feel even when it's not your fear anymore. I did the dishes and let my mind walk through a house that wasn't mine. A lender's voicemail blinking red, a husband pacing, my sister's thumb hovering over my name and choosing not to press. The silence was not empty. It was full of learning. By sunset, a single sentence arrived from her number. No punctuation, no padding. If you don't sign, I'll understand. I really will. I believed her, in the way you believe someone trying to borrow sincerity and pay back with time. I didn't answer. I set the phone down and kneaded lasagna dough with my son, flour turning the countertop into a small winter. We watched a shark documentary. He leaned against my arm during the part where the narrator whispered about patience. They wade under the surface, yeah, he said. Then they move. Exactly, I said. He didn't know he'd just described me. When he fell asleep, I opened my laptop and the folder named after truth. Receipts blinked like a lighthouse. I added a line. Autopay removed. Insurance lapse noticed. Venmo declined. Education fund closed. Gifts accepted without purchase of silence. I thought about calling the bank, and then I didn't think anymore. I scheduled the meeting for one day before the deadline, chose a time that would make them sweat for 24 more hours, not as punishment, but as pedagogy. Forgiveness is not permission. Help is not habit. I turned off the lamp and stood at the window. Across the street, a couple argued without voices we could hear, hands making shapes in the air. Rain began again, gentle this time. I didn't rehearse speeches or write comebacks in my head. I pictured a conference room, a pen, a signature that belonged to me and would be used on my terms or not at all. I pictured a table set with real food and phones tucked away and a small place card with my son's name spelled correctly. I pictured us walking in together, not to be useful, but to be met at eye level. The night held. The clock moved. Somewhere, a beige house learned the value of a countdown. Somewhere, I remembered that I do not exist to be anyone's extension cord. The morning of the deadline came with sunlight that felt heavier than it should, the kind that makes dust visible and truth harder to ignore. I brewed coffee, poured milk into my son's cereal, and let the day start like any other. But beneath every small sound, spoon clinking, birds tapping the window, I could feel the clock counting. One day left. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Brother, she's falling apart. Bank keeps calling. You know she can't do this without you. He didn't add a please. He never does. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the window. Outside, an older man walked his dog across the street, steady and slow. The kind of life where nothing breaks because nothing is borrowed. I wondered what that felt like. Around noon, my sister finally texted. I can't stop crying. He's leaving. The bank says they're taking the house. Mom won't pick up. Dad's done with us. I don't have anything left to say except, if you don't sign, I'll understand. I really will. No bargaining, no deflection, just that. It was strange how quiet the truth sounded when it finally arrived. For years, I'd pictured this moment as thunder, but it came like a whisper, like a confession that had forgotten its own lines. I didn't reply. I let the silence stand where my explanations used to live. That afternoon, Evan came over after work. He didn't say much, just dropped his jacket on the couch, loosened his tie, and handed me a coffee. You look like you're thinking in bullet points, he said. I might sign tomorrow, I admitted. He took a sip. Do you want to? I don't know. I just don't want to carry it anymore. He nodded, resting his cup on the table. There's a difference between letting go and giving back. You get to choose which one this is. I didn't answer, but I wrote his words down later in my planner, just under the note that said bank meeting, 10:00 a.m. That evening, my son came home from school carrying a stack of drawings. He spread them across the floor. Sharks, spaceships, a house with too many windows. This one's for Auntie, he said, pointing to the last one. I looked at him, puzzled. Why that one? Because it's falling apart, he said simply. But someone's fixing it. He didn't mean the house, but I didn't correct him. The next morning, I arrived at the bank early. The air smelled of printer ink and cold perfume. The branch manager recognized me. She remembered my name from 5 years ago when we first co-signed that loan. She asked how the family was. I smiled like someone answering about the weather. Inside the small office, papers lay neatly stacked, corners perfect. The refinancing packet was there, signature line waiting. I read every word, twice. Then I picked up the pen. For a long moment, I didn't write. The silence in that room felt alive. I thought about my sister, about all the birthdays I paid for and the dinners I wasn't invited to, about the way she let her daughter humiliate my son, about that single text, if you don't sign, I'll understand. I thought about the bracelet, the missing letter, the way children learn apology before adults do. Then I signed. Not because she deserved it, but because I wanted to be free of the ledger entirely. Some debts you pay just to stop looking at them. When I handed the pen back, the banker smiled politely. That's it, she said. You're all set. She didn't know she was wrong. Nothing about this was all set, but it was done. By sunset, I was sitting on the porch with my son. He was reading out loud from his new Lego book, voice soft, vowels stretching as he sounded things out. Every few minutes, he'd glance at me and smile like he was checking if peace still lived here. Do you think they'll say sorry now? He asked. Maybe, I said, but I'm not waiting for it. He nodded, satisfied. Then, after a pause, You know, you don't have to be the grown-up all the time. I laughed. Who told you that? He shrugged. Grandma used to say it when you weren't around. That caught me off guard. She said that? He nodded. She said you forget you're allowed to rest. I stared at him, throat tight. Leave it to a 9-year-old to deliver grace without agenda. That night, while he slept, I found myself scrolling through old photos. The family reunion 2 summers ago. The Christmas dinner before that. The smiles looked rehearsed now, teeth bared like apologies waiting for the right lighting. I stopped on one image. My sister and me, arms around each other, the caption reading, "Built on Trust." I almost deleted it, but something stopped me. It wasn't nostalgia. It was evidence, proof of how we once looked before the mask slipped. I closed the phone and whispered to the dark, "I forgive you, but I won't forget." The following afternoon, a message appeared from my brother. "Dinner, Saturday. Everyone says one nice thing. Phone's off." No emojis, no sarcasm, just coordinates for something that might be healing, or a trap. I showed the text to my son. "What do you think?" He thought for a moment, then said, "If they mess up again, we just leave, but maybe we should go." It wasn't hesitation I heard in his voice, it was maturity. He wanted closure, not for them, but for me. Saturday came. The sky was the color of surrender, gray, honest. We drove in silence. The house looked smaller somehow, or maybe we'd just outgrown it. When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Real food, not catered, not staged. Laughter, tentative but human. The table set with mismatched plates. A small white card at my son's seat with his name printed in careful handwriting. Everyone stood when we walked in. No one reached for a phone. My sister looked tired, in the best way, like someone who had finally run out of lies to carry. She walked up, took a deep breath, and said, "Before anything else, thank you for everything, and I'm sorry for how long it took to mean that." Mom stepped forward next. Her eyes glistened, but her voice didn't shake. "I should have stopped it years ago," she said. "I should have protected you." No theatrics, no deflection, just plain truth, stripped of performance. Then, one by one, each person said something real. Not sweet, not perfect, but real. My brother admitted he laughed that night because he was afraid of being next. My dad said he'd never learned how to apologize without explaining himself, and he didn't plan to start now, but he was proud of me. I accepted all of it, not because it fixed anything, but because it was the first time they'd ever spoken without turning it into debt. My son listened quietly. When it was his turn, he smiled at my niece. "Thank you for the Lego set," he said. "It was my favorite one." Her face lit up. "You're welcome," she whispered. And just like that, something shifted. We stayed longer than I thought we would. Long enough to wash dishes, long enough to laugh once without bracing for the punchline. As we left, my sister hugged me. Not tight, not desperate, just enough. "I know you didn't do it for me," she said, "but thank you anyway." On the drive home, my son clutched a small handmade card in his lap. At a stoplight, he looked up and said, "It felt different this time." He was right, because healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just sits quietly at a table that finally has enough chairs for everyone. And sometimes, after years of being everyone's safety net, you realize that peace doesn't need repayment. It just needs room.